North Korea, a third world country of Eastern Asia, has been globally influential throughout the last century. It has created political strife, wars, and conflicts revolving around the foreign affairs and policies. The most important leader in the history of North Korea is Kim Il-sung, the first communist leader of the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. As a national idol and a superstar, he presents a major cultural and political influence. The influence he has had on the world is obviously apparent, but the inspiration and influence that other nations, especially Japan, is not as apparent. Foreign influences like Joseph Stalin and the Japanese occupation of China and the Korean Peninsula influenced Kim Il-sung's ideologies as a leader, and through him the political, economic, and social systems of North Korea.
The Sino-Japanese War took place from August 1894 to April 1895 and took a devastating toll on China and Korea. It left these states under the oppressive rule of Japan until the end of World War II. These leaders left Korea in a state of poverty as Japan leached economically on the productions and resources of this nation. This rule merited rebellious guerrilla action to counteract Japanese iron rule.
Kim Il-sung was born in Mangyeong-dae near Pyongyang on April 15, 1912. In order to evade the Japanese occupation of Korea in the 1920s, Kim's parents took the family and fled to Manchuria. It was there that Kim was influenced by his father and worked against the Japanese, staying firm in his beliefs against Japan.
At a very young age, Kim was involved in anti-Japanese guerrilla warfare. Having already been arrested once at age 17 for his rebellious activities, he continued to actively work against the Japanese, and after having been drawn to communism, joined the Communist Party of China in 1931, aged 19. From there he experienced a meteoric rise in rank until he was immediately under Wang Zhengmin, who was an assistant to one of the advisors of Mao Zedong. Eventually he was appointed as the commander of the 2nd Operational Region of the 1st Army in the Anti-Japanese United Army.
Japan ruled over Korea with an iron fist and invaded the nation through the settlement of their overcrowded Japanese farmers on Korean land. This rule started out with militaristic law for 10 years, squashing any resistance presented to their rule. They were eventually subject to work in Japanese factories and were eventually drafted as soldiers or as sexual slaves with their newly forced upon Japanese names. This influenced Japanese culture and industrialization onto the Korean culture. Kim Il-sung was influenced by these actions through a resentment to foreign nations like Japan and a nationalistic feeling towards the oppressed Korea, overall influencing his general presidential policy and early actions as an activist. In 1940, after many small victories of the Japanese, Kim Il-sung found himself as not only one of the most effective and popular guerrilla leaders, but the only First Army leader still alive by the end of the year. Pursued by Japanese troops, Kim and what happened of his army escaped by crossing the Amur River to the Soviet Union. He was sent to a camp at Vutsky near Kharkiv, where the Korean communist guerrillas were retrained by the Soviets. Kim became a major in the Soviet Red Army and served in it until the end of World War II. After the dropping of the atomic bombs, all Japanese resistance ended and the Empire of Japan fell. Following the nuclear attacks, Stalin's Red Army met almost no obstacles in its march to Pyongyang, and Kim Il-sung was appointed as head of the Koreas, which, despite being met by some opposition, was essentially the founders' decision.
Kim returned to a divided Korea in 1945. He immediately sought to reunite Korea under his leadership and form the Korean People's Republic. Working with Stalin, Kim was able to construct a formidable army, and soon North Korea was under his control. In the summer of 1950, after strategizing with Stalin and Mao Zedong, Kim led an invasion into the south, looking to unify the country under northern control, initiating the Korean War, which was met with fierce Western retaliation.
Kim Il-sung was focused on bettering his nation and his people. He focused on internal economics and production, as Korea was still in a state of poverty. He personally visited farmers and introduced agricultural reforms. He isolated his nation from any outside influence to reform and recuperate his culturally and economically devastated nation. Once this was accomplished, through governmental interventions, reforms, and orating, Kim Il-sung focused on foreign policy of Korea, laying the framework for future generations.
As a national leader, Kim Il-sung had a major influence on the relations between Korea and other nations. Initially, his plan of isolationism held strong, as his negative views of outside influence based on the past interactions of Japan skewed this belief. After reforming his nation into a recoverable state, he restrictively opened up the nation of Korea, censoring his internal affairs, but having positive relations with China and the UN. China was a major ally due to its similar belief in communism and its previous partnership with Kim Il-sung prior to his rule. To keep a positive image to the world, a positive relation with the UN was vital to secure the nation's safety and privacy. Kim's policies were hugely influenced by the communist twin towers of Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin. Having originally been put into power by Stalin, the two remained political allies until Stalin's death, and Kim Il-sung also mimicked Stalin in several aspects of his policies, especially in terms of his focus on agricultural and self-sufficiency. Kim also employed the 5-year economics plans, just as Stalin had done. The Japanese influence on Kim Il-sung's policies, however, was arguably greater than that of Stalin or Mao. While Korea was under Japanese control, it was exploited and driven to immense poverty by the oppressive Japanese regime, which led to the most important aspect of Kim's foreign policy: isolationism. Kim Il-sung believed that no one but him and other Koreans wanted for Korea to prosper and wanted to shield Korea from foreign influences. This policy of isolationism is still one of the most prominent aspects of North Korea, even to this day.
As the new head of state, Kim continued to have an agitated relationship with South Korea, with North Korea becoming known as a highly controlled, oppressed country, sheltered from the advances and issues of the outside world. Under a propaganda-based social fabric, Kim fostered the concept of economic self-reliance and came to be known as the Great Leader. With the people of North Korea looking up to Kim as a godly figure, he was elected the eternal president of the country in late 1972, taking on a domestic policy that focused on militarization and industrialization. Kim Il-sung was an incredible, effective speaker, and his leadership skills were absolutely unquestionable. While not everything that the DPRK has released about him is true, he was still an extraordinary and incredibly passionate man, even from a young age. His oratory skills, in particular, were very good, and he was also renowned for his bravery.
In order to make his job even more secure, the cult of Kim Il-sung was created, elevating him to a godlike status. Even today, statues and pictures of him are everywhere, and it is quite normal to bow before these statues and refer to him as the Great Leader. The people are told he was a genius, showing them how to build railways, dams, roads, and is attributed to having invented nearly everything. With a very tight censorship and a massive rewriting of history, it is impossible to know if the people believe this myth. In 1972, a new constitution shifted power from the party to the state, and he became both the president of the republic and chairman of the party. From this time onwards, North Korea became poorer because it could not afford to buy advanced technology from the West, and its industrial production declined. To compensate for this, Kim told the people there is nothing in the world to envy, insisting on this peculiar style of self-reliance, the juche. To encourage the people, he handed out medals, but in the end, so many were given out, they had very little value.
Kim Il-sung left a legacy on the Democratic People's Republic of Korea through his rule and his political impact on the world. His family ruled North Korea still lives on, with his grandson, Kim Jong-un, taking control of the country and mimicking his father's policies and style. Simple things like his posture and his style of secrecy and isolationism are carried on today by Kim Jong-un. Additionally, his impact on society is still evident, as he is presently worshipped and idolized by the North Korean people, either through ceremonial offerings or through his institutions named in his memory.